Excellencies, distinguished speakers, chair and participants, it is a proud privilege and an occasion of great personal gratification to be able to organize this webinar evaluating the strategic partnership after the Porto Summit, learnings from the high-level EU-India Leaders Meeting 2021. My name is Kanchi Batra and I'm the business editor at The Diplomatist. First and foremost, our condolences and prayers with everyone here in India who have lost their family members due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Leaders of India and European Union also met virtually on 8th May. They met under the shadow of the coronavirus pandemic that has once again gripped India. The high-level EU-India leaders meeting was indeed meaningful, since it came at a time when EU and India are uncovering areas of political convergence and cooperation. The post-COVID world will definitely have intense challenges for policymakers in both the regions, but this meet absolutely gave a new momentum, a fresh momentum to the free trade negotiations and accelerated the speed of the partnership. To get things kicked off, please welcome Ms. Linda Brady-Hawk, publisher, Diplomatist Magazine, as she gives away the official opening remarks. Over to you, Mrs. Hawk.
And a good day to all participants, speakers, and delegates. It is my pleasure to open this discussion on evaluating this strategic partnership after the Porto Summit, learnings from the high-level EU-India leaders meeting, and to welcome you to this virtual dialogue. It is our history of service, innovation, and growth that makes diplomacy uniquely attractive. For the last 2 decades, we have leveraged our knowledge, resources, and global networks to help build thriving environments conducive to growth and innovation. Following last year's successful virtual discussion, this year, we decided to organize critical events and focus on even more pragmatic issues. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic in its second wave created an economic and public crisis which has caused tremendous harm. We have come together at this crucial stage when India is witnessing a sharp spike in COVID-19 cases after months of declining numbers. It is with a sense of relief that we see countries around the world coming forward to help us fight this pandemic. India is indeed making every effort to save the life of every citizen from coronavirus. On 8th May, leaders of all 27 heads of EU countries and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met virtually. Officials of both sides held the first India-EU leaders meeting. Today, we have gathered here to analyze the outcome of that meeting. I am confident that the 3 sessions of this dialogue will help and offer plenty of material for reflection, as well as in policy development at the national and international level. I therefore thank you for being present, especially those in distant time zones. Your participation shows your continued strong commitment towards EU-India relations. In conclusion, may I reiterate my sincere hope that this discussion will result in success. I thank you for your attention and for your presence here today.
Thank you, Mrs. Hawk. Now it is time to reveal the special report on India and EU plus 27, made by the Diplomatist Magazine. This report This report analyzes the existing state of affairs and the future potential of India-EU relations by examining theoretical approaches of strategic partnership, including trade, climate policy, and development cooperation. It assesses the prospects for future cooperation. Lastly, it proposes policy recommendations for improving the relationship between India and the EU. With this in mind, we urge the leadership of India and EU to make every effort to capitalize on a great opportunity that the new world order offers. Again, a big shout out to all our amazing authors and contributors. All our speakers and authors will get a hard copy after this event. As we have all joined here, we have an opportunity today to discuss the outcomes of the high-level India-EU leaders meeting. A recorded version of the webinar will be available later, and we are also live on Facebook. Now, I gladly invite the chairperson and moderator for this session, Ms. Stefania Benalia, Associate Researcher, Center for European Policy Studies, Brussels. Thank you, Ms. Stefania, for joining us. You may kindly start the proceedings.
Thank you. Thank you very much and good morning. I would like to begin by thanking the diplomats for organizing this great event and for extending my condolences to everyone suffering from this devastating wave of COVID-19. Today, I'm really honored to be leading a discussion evaluating the strategic partnership and the outcome of last leaders' meeting with such a stellar panel. And I'm particularly happy because the outcome of the meeting and the discussion is so positive. Of course, such outcome was only possible thanks to the diligent work of all the diplomatic services involved, which slowly built the momentum from the relaunch of relations in 2016, passing through the adoption of two roadmaps, the agenda for 2020 and the roadmap for 2025, which were increasingly more ambitious and led to last week's breakthrough. I dare say breakthrough indeed, because it marked the end of a joint statement era and enters the one of joint action, and hopefully there's no coming back. The meeting was anticipated like no other, starting from the format of the event, a leaders' meeting, which is quite unusual and has a stronger diplomatic value. The difference being that the PM Modi was invited to attend the European Council and therefore met with all the heads of states of the EU and not only with the heads of state of the institutions, which is a more traditional summit format. But perhaps we'll hear more from this from His Excellency Pereira Marques, the Ambassador of Portugal to India. For sure, this meeting left us with concrete deliverables that will be taking the partnership forward. The resumption of the FTA negotiations, while delivered concretely only in a few months from now, they certainly give a boost of confidence already today. The connectivity partnership also provides a framework to enhance cooperation and coordination in a number of fields and coordinate the actions of all the various actors in the region, and including with third countries. The partners also agreed to enhance cooperation on global issues that affect us all, such as the COVID-19, climate change, as well as looking at the Indo-Pacific region. The level of ambition, and more importantly, of commitment coming out of this meeting is unprecedented. Finally, we have witnessed a substantial political investment into the strategic partnership, something that frankly we haven't been used to see so often. But I stop here because we are lucky to have really a stellar lineup of speakers who have been at the center of the action and will provide us with their assessment. So I will now invite all our speakers, which I will introduce one by one, but I would first like to also ask if in their initial remarks assessing the outcome of last week's meeting, they could also envisage what are the next steps. Because now that the strategic partnership proved capable of stepping further in concrete terms, what should be the first concrete action that they take together? So with this question in mind, I would like now to invite His Excellency Mr. Carlos Pereira Marques, Ambassador of Portugal to India, to deliver his remarks in the next 10 minutes. Ambassador, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is the sound fine? Okay. Are you listening well? Thank you so much. I want first of all to thank the diplomatists for the kind invitation that was addressed to me, and also to acknowledge Mrs. Linda Oak, Mrs. Stefania Benagli, Mrs. Kanshi Batra, and all the others distinguished speakers. A special mention goes to my Slovenian colleague, who from July onwards will take over the challenging and difficult task of holding the EU presidency. And I say difficult because the times we are going through are definitely very demanding ones, as we all know. But despite these, progress is possible. And what we witnessed last weekend between the EU and India was progress in motion. And that's why I'm especially pleased to be here today to talk about it on a very positive and optimistic mode. I try to be as clear as possible in my intervention, which I will structure around the three main following points. Firstly, Saturday's high-level EU-India leaders meeting was undoubtedly a big success. Secondly, why was it a big success? And thirdly, how was it made possible? That the leaders meeting was a success is quite consensual, and that was largely stated by both sides in an unequivocal manner. And here I quote, in a unique jointly written open ad published on the very same day by the leading European media portal Politico, Prime Ministers Modi and Costa said the meeting was a moment of profound geopolitical significance. And further on, they spoke of a pivotal moment and termed it as a crucial dialogue. After the meeting, Prime Minister Modi also wrote on his Twitter that the meeting allowed to take forward the commitment to transform India-EU relationship for global good. The evaluation from the NEA was also very positive, as Secretary West, Vikas Swarup, in his statements to the press, classified the EU-India leaders meeting as a very historic and a very successful one, talking about a watershed moment in the Indian-EU strategic partnership. Minister Goyal, on his turn, said it marked the beginning of a new chapter towards building a strong India-EU relationship. On the EU side, the perception was equally extremely positive. Prime Minister Costa, as the host of the meeting, showed some modesty, limiting himself to say that it was a success, and underlying that it was also very significant. It had gone ahead despite the worsening of the COVID pandemic situation in India. The President of the European Council, Charles Michel, said we were witnessing a new chapter in bilateral relations between the two largest democracies in the world. But the most enthusiastic words came perhaps from the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who referred the leaders' meeting as being a very important historical moment, a remarkable, extraordinary summit, because it widened the scope and the view of the untapped potential in the relationship of the EU and India. And she added, this is outstanding, it's a landmark moment. But why was the meeting a success? Well, first of all, because it was the first time ever that the Prime Minister of India met directly all the heads of state and government of the EU, and not just the Presidents of the Council and the Commission as before on the occasion of previous EU-India summits. This was an historic innovation that implies a significant upgrade in the bilateral relationship, and an improvement we hope will set a regular practice in the future. Both parts will be then closer, and the dialogue between them will be more dynamic and richer. Definitely, this was a major breakthrough. Secondly, because during the meeting it was announced that India and the EU have agreed to resume negotiations for a balanced, ambitious, comprehensive, and mutually beneficial free trade agreements, as well as for agreements on the protection of investments and geographic indications. This is, as we all know, was a much awaited result, as the negotiations were suspended in 2013 after 6 years of unproductive talks. Having in mind that the EU is India's largest trading partner and its leading foreign investor with inflows that more than doubled in the last decade, this is perhaps one of the most important outcomes of the meeting. The new agreements to be concluded at an early date will provide a much needed impetus to the economic engagement from both sides, enable them to realize its full potential. On the other hand, they will also send out a powerful sign to the world in support of the advantages of international trade cooperation. Thirdly, India and the EU also launched an ambitious and comprehensive connectivity partnership focused on enhancing digital, energy, transport, and people-to-people connectivity. The partnership will catalyze private and public financing for connectivity projects and will encourage joint projects in third countries and regions, including Africa, Central Asia, and the Indo-Pacific. This will be the second of such a connectivity partnership after the one concluded between the EU and Japan. It was also decided to increase the bilateral cooperation in key areas such as health, pharmaceutical industry, digital technology, climate action, science, and education. And finally, the meeting had the undeniable effect of getting India and the EU closer, reinforcing their partnership, giving more substance to their strategic relationship, and showing to the world how pivotal it is to rely on balanced and diversified relations with allied countries and blocs with whom we share the same values and principles. Prime Minister Modi described last Saturday the India strategic partnership as a force multiplier for the global good in the 21st century. And he also conveyed that a stronger and more strategic India-EU relationship is crucial for ensuring a rule-based, stable, multipolar order. The Porto meeting was thus the culmination of a rapprochement process mutually desired and mutually beneficial that the recent world developments made even more imperative. By giving a new momentum to the partnership between the world's two largest democratic spaces, it will bring a positive additional stability factor to the global order. And finally, how was all this made possible? Portugal set India as one of the main priorities of its current EU presidency, as we were since the beginning fully aware of the important role this country plays in Asia and in the Indo-Pacific region, and how crucial it will be to propel the EU-India relationship to new heights, to diversify and balance our geopolitical links. When we first proposed the realization of the first ever EU-India leaders meeting, this was in December 2019, the world was very different from today. But the dramatic evolution of the last year and a half just confirmed how right we were. It has shown us how vulnerable and interdependent we are and how important it is to forge alliances and strengthen existing partnerships to overcome the pandemic and improve our resilience. Our endeavors had the inflexible support of the EU Council and Commission, as well as the stimulus of the European Parliament. The adoption at the 15th EU-India Summit last July of the EU-India Strategic Partnership, a roadmap to 2025, was a very positive factor, namely by approving a new high-level dialogue on trade and investment, whose role was to become decisive for the good results achieved. This strong momentum provided by the July summit was actually acknowledged at the Porto meeting. The very intensive work developed during the last few months between both sides at technical level was also instrumental. But without a very strong political will of our leaders to achieve concrete results, nothing has been possible, of course. The realization of the leaders' meeting on the convened dates, despite the dramatic deterioration of the pandemic situation in India, was itself a proof of the determination of both sides to move forward quickly in order to face strongly together the challenges we have ahead. To conclude, it was during the Portuguese presidency in 2000 that took place the first ever EU-India summit. It was also during a Portuguese presidency now that has taken place the first high-level EU-India leaders meeting. This shows the consistency of our approach to India and make us enormously proud and happy with the results achieved. The fact that our contribution was largely acknowledged is also rewarding and gives us strength to stay committed to the constant goal of Portuguese diplomacy of building bridges and promoting dialogue. And here I quote again, Prime Minister Modi, I thank my friend Prime Minister Antonio Costa for this initiative and for according high priority to India during the Portuguese presidency of the European Council and the MEA. The EU-India Leaders Meeting was an initiative of the Portuguese presidency. Portugal's efforts towards placing the EU's relationship with India as one of the top priorities on the EU's external agenda also bears testimony to the deep and trusted ties between India and Portugal. It is now time to look ahead, to implement and to put into practice. Negotiations on both the trade and investment agreements will be pursued on parallel tracks, with an intention to achieve an early conclusion on both. The negotiations on geographical indications may be concluded separately or integrated into the trade agreement, depending on its pace. The high-level dialogue on trade and investment has been tasked to ensure progress on market access and supervise the negotiations. The leitmotif of the EU-Portuguese presence is a time to deliver. And we do believe that this could be valid for all presidencies. There was and still is a lot to deliver during our presidency. And there will be a lot to deliver as well during the Slovenian presidency, as our relationship with India will continue to be absolutely fundamental in all its dimensions. In September, for instance, the EU shall finalize its strategy for the Indo-Pacific. Step by step, we bridge our ties. And I wish my Slovenian colleague all the best in this very challenging voyage. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your remarks outlining all the many things achieved, and congratulations again for the good work of the Portuguese presidency. Before moving to the next speaker, I would like to remind to indeed share your questions in the Q&A box. And now I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency Namrata Kumar, Ambassador of India to Slovenia. Please, Ambassador. Ambassador, are you able to hear us? Otherwise,
hello.
Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So, dear all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants across the time zones, including my distinguished panelists for the session and also the chair. First of all, I want to really congratulate our Portuguese colleague, Ambassador Carlos, for so effectively and successfully managing the presidency, and also the very important meeting that took place on 8th this Saturday between the EU 27 and India. Coming straight to this meeting, I think, of course, as everybody has been saying, that this was a pivotal meeting, a milestone meeting, especially in the context that it was happening for the first time at the leaders level. But not just that, it was also a pivotal and milestone meeting in the context of the outcomes. The joint statement, 6-page joint statement that was issued by the two sides, highlighting 5 important priority areas, which are very important for both the sides, both India and EU, which included investing more in India-EU strategic partnership, building global health preparedness and resilience, especially in the context of COVID-19, and also beyond that, protecting planet, taking care of climate issues, fostering inclusive growth through trade, connectivity, and technology, and striving for safer, prosperous, and more democratic world. Under these five important priority areas, the two sides spelled out uh, the road ahead itself, but we will see what exactly is now to be done exactly after the Porto Summit. But before I dwell into that, I just want to highlight that EU-India's partnership, EU-India's relationship is not just a bilateral relationship, and it has tremendous significance in the context of global issues. And this important meeting basically highlighted this very important aspect, that the relationship is not just limited at the bilateral level, but has a lot to do together at the global stage. Uh, it is a watershed moment for both the sides, a major turning point. And why do we say that? Uh, all this while, India's relationship uh, with Europe has been in the context of again strength. It has evolved over the years, and it has been a pointer of culmination of India's efforts all this while to enhance its relationship with Europe. Europe also is beginning to getting out of its internal preoccupations, and is emerging to see greater role at the global stage. At the same time, India has begun to see closer cooperation with EU level to leverage it for its domestic development goals, as well as its evolution as a global leader, especially in the areas such as climate change, digitalization, terrorism. And we see EU as a like-minded partner. And in that context, again, the meeting has been tremendously positive, with some very, very important, meaningful, mutually beneficial outcomes. Uh, it has been a symbol of, also EU's desire to strengthen its relationship with India and work together for a stable and multipolar world. India EU cooperation, especially on the matters of health, trade investment agreements, comprehensive connectivity partnership, and again, in the terms of going beyond just to, for example, encompassing our reach in the Indo-Pacific region, has been taken care of in a very comprehensive way during the deliberations of this meeting. And that again made the deliberations of this summit level meeting very, very significant. Uh, we have talked a lot about the outcomes and important uh, points which the two sides identified to take ahead. I would just like to list down some of the points that we have to now focus post Porto, especially being here in Slovenia and together working with the Slovenian friends, as well as my colleague in Delhi, Ambassador Chinchen, uh, to see how can whatever has been decided during the Porto Summit can be taken ahead uh, when Slovenian friends take over the EU presidency. Uh, Very firstly, I feel in the list of way ahead, I would say that we have to see how soon both sides can resume the negotiations on the trade agreement and investment agreement. Uh, we have to, of course, there are high level groups who will decide and delineate the timelines, but that is something very will be very crucial to identify. The very fact that the high level group is being chaired by our honorable commerce and industries minister and EU trade commissioner at the EU side gives a big impetus and importance to take ahead this outcome of the Porto Summit in a more structured and planned manner. Secondly, of course, the very comprehensive connectivity partnership document that has been worked out, which is a blueprint laying down again the way ahead, and which spells very clearly about our joint ambition to work together in various pillars of connectivity, including the very important aspect that it has taken into account, that is uh, taking ahead our bilateral partnership to other geographies such as Africa, Central Asia, and Indo-Pacific in particular. So how to put that in operation? That will be, of course, another very important point as a way ahead during the forthcoming presidency. Uh, Coming to the health sector and dealing with the pandemic, uh, we, along with South Africa, have given a proposal for patents waiver. US has already supported it. And we would hope, of course, that EU also works on I mean, examines the proposal and sees that, comes up with support for the TRIPS waiver, because that is going to play a very important role when it comes to dealing with the larger and joint mission of both EU and India of development for all and health for all. Indo-Pacific, of course, is going to be a very important area for both India and EU to work upon together. And in this context, I would just mention that Prime Minister Modi had already pointed out about the priorities that were laid out by us in the East Asia Summit in November 2019, and he has invited you to have a look at that, have a look at it in that context. Probably both sides will take ahead the partnership in this region ahead. Then, of course, lastly, there are two more important points that we have uh, chalked out, and we will have to. We look forward to for greater discussion in those areas. Is about one is about securing our networks, and lastly, how do we take forward the operationalization of, the joint task force on artificial intelligence? This decision was taken last year in 15th India EU Summit. Yeah, Slovenia in this context is also taking important steps. It has put in place organizations such as IRCAI, which is focusing on laying out the regulatory, uh, you know, uh, regulatory framework for how to deal with artificial intelligence and how to use it responsibly. In that context, we see that both India and Slovenia during Slovenia's presidency can also take some major steps ahead. These are few points I was thinking that could be important. Of course, other participants will also throw more light on how to take the outcomes that we have achieved during the Porto Summit ahead. These were few from my side, and thank you very much, diplomators, for inviting for this invitation. Thank you, Linda. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your remarks outlining indeed the next steps, and best of luck for the upcoming months working with the Slovenian presidency. I would now like to give the floor to His Excellency Dr. Marian Cencen, Ambassador of Slovenia to India. Please, Ambassador, the floor is yours. Sorry, please, I would also remind our speakers to mute yourself when you're no longer speaking. Thank you. Ambassador.
So I'm unmuted now, correct? Okay, thank you very much, Stefania. I would like to thank also Diplomatist magazine to organize this session and the other that are following. So this is a good sense of importance of the movement that was achieved during the last week's summit. So I would like to congratulate my colleague Carlos and the Portuguese presidency, which really showed amazing results with close cooperation with our Indian friends. And of course, the situation is actually very difficult, but this is also the proof that we are capable to work together as friends and like-minded partners, which will, I believe, show important results in the future as well. Also, I would like to express my condolences to all who perished during this crisis. This situation is really difficult. We experienced difficult times, but I think we are strong to go on in the future. And also, I would like to congratulate Carlos on his presentation. So this is just to prove how systematically Portugal was prepared for its presidency, and also how much effort it put into this event that was just the most bright moment in our historically good relations between Europe as a whole and member states and India. And I can promise that Slovenia will continue in this direction. The good thing is that, of course, none of the member states can do anything individually unless there is something agreed. And so far, we were fully united in our relations towards India, which is important. Slovenia is the last of the so-called trio presidency, starting with Germany, Portugal in the middle, and Slovenia as the last in this system. In substance, we can actually be sure that we'll go on with practical steps in what was agreed during the summit. The priorities of Slovenia for the EU presidency are very much relied to in relation with what was discussed, even though we didn't specifically focus on India. But of course, since we are facing similar challenges and as like-minded partners, this would be, of course, much easier in the future to achieve. So among Slovenian presidency priorities are economic recovery and, of course, health recovery, which everybody is going to need. We will work on that, and we had the experience with the financial crisis in 2008. The crisis now is different, So our steps are defined differently, but I think that we are on a good way to find proper solution. Of course, we'll have to discuss very seriously about establishing resilient societies in relation to future health challenges that we might encounter. And first of all, of course, we have to recover from this one as well. So we'll work on this within the European Union and also with our partners like India. The crisis actually is also an opportunity to establish new approaches, to find new solutions for the challenges we face. And we are both actually thinking in the similar directions. One of these solutions is, of course, the green and sustainable development. And this is a good opportunity to find solutions in this way, because now we have a certain moment in our history that we have to think about seriously how to go on with what we have. Digitalization is certainly part of this. This is also one of our priorities. And that includes also the cybersecurity. I think that all the countries now are facing more cyber threats as any time in the past. We are witnessing incidents mostly on a daily basis, so this is going to be very important. And India, as a country that has so many experts in this area, is certainly the best possible partner of European Union. I can just agree that the free trade agreement is our joint goal, and as it was pointed out by Secretary West Vikas Swarup after the meeting, this is the greatest achievement of this summit. Some days before, Minister Goyal mentioned that, of course, we are complementary economies, because Europe, of course, is interested about investment, and that means safe investment in India. And India is interested to export the goods and also some like experts, students who are experts in different fields. And the crisis now actually showed us that we'll have to rethink the supply chains very seriously, because somehow with this globalization process, we didn't pay attention so much where the goods are coming from that we need for our products. This is very visible in the area of electronics or maybe pharmaceuticals. So I think it's very encouraging that India is showing its will to step into supply chains. And what's important is not just to have safe supply chains. It's also important to have a partner who doesn't condition these supply chains with some, let's say, non-trade conditions. Or some political statement. So I think that we have a good chance to go on, and I'm sure that high-level dialogue between Commissioner Dombrovskis and Minister Goyal will go on, especially after such encouraging conclusion of the summit in the area of trade and investment. But of course, our relations are much bigger than that, and I'm happy that also the President Michel, he said that India and Europe have same multilateral DNA, and this is very important because India now is a member of Security Council, and we'll discuss regional and global issues, and it's very important that we have a partner like India in this area, because we have many common views when we discuss like free navigation, free trade, connectivity, but also regional issues like Central Asia, specifically Afghanistan or Myanmar or some other areas, or the Middle East, or as India is calling the Western Asia. So I think that the opportunities are big, and the European chairing country is just part of this story. I'm sure that Slovenia will do its best to contribute to this. I'm happy to see that we have a well-experienced government, and the Prime Minister Janša actually will be chairing the EU for the second time. He did it also between 2004 and 2008. I'm happy to see that the European Commission is also very much dedicated to strengthen relations with India. And as a mission, I think we'll do also our best. So I will not go on with this because there are other speakers who want to say something as well. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your remarks outlining the priorities of the Slovenian presidency, and best of luck for the upcoming month. And now we move on to the Ambassador Venu Rajamoni, former Ambassador of India to the Netherlands. Ambassador, please, the floor is yours.
I'm sorry, I was having some technical issues. Am I audible? Am I clear? Okay. Thank you very much. And my compliments to the publisher of The Diplomatist and the very able and efficient Kanchi Batra for having organized this wonderful webinar, a very timely discussion. I would like to compliment the moderator for having set the tone for the discussions, and their excellencies, the ambassadors of Portugal to India, the ambassador of Slovenia to India, and my dear colleague Namrata Kumar, the ambassador of India to Slovenia, for having joined these discussions and for having given their very valuable views. I begin by complimenting the ambassador of Portugal for an outstanding achievement, along with all his diplomatic colleagues. Truly, I think Portugal occupies a very special place in the hearts of all Indians and India now. And we are particularly proud of the attachment shown to us by the Prime Minister of Portugal, who greatly values his overseas citizen of India status. As has been mentioned by most of the, or all the speakers before, this summit has truly been historic. It has been the first time ever that we have such a high-level interaction, bringing a lot of political attention at the highest level to the relationship. And it is a watershed moment. And as mentioned by Prime Minister Modi, it has the potential to be a force multiplier in many ways. The summit has also resulted in a number of important agreements on many issues, which have the potential to bring great benefit to the people of European Union as well as India, and in a way to play to bring both these countries to play a transformative role in global affairs as a whole. However, in order not to just repeat what has been said before, I would start by saying that while on one hand, only the tip of the iceberg has been scratched, this is only a beginning. While a wonderful beginning has been made, we still have a long way to go. There are miles to go before concrete results and achievements could be found. And while we celebrate the results, we celebrate the summit and its achievements, we must be realistic and we must be conscious of the fact that there are many challenges that lie ahead of both the European Union and India in the coming days. The ambassador of Slovenia just now mentioned how economic recovery and health recovery is going to be the priority of Slovenia during its presidency. I think that is going to be the same with India, which even now is suffering from the second wave of the COVID pandemic. It is a time when all countries of the world, India as well as the countries of European Union, are all looking inward. We are worried about the impact that COVID makes on our countries, on our societies, our people, our economies. So our focus necessarily has to be inwards. It is unfortunately a period of false nationalism in some ways, whether it is over vaccines or whether it is over medicines. It is not a period when the proponents of free trade are large in number. So many of the decisions that have been agreed upon are going to be slow in taking off, and I think we must be realistic in assessing it and at the same time must redouble our efforts in trying to make incremental progress. I would start by commenting on the TRIPS waiver, which was referred to by my colleague, the Ambassador of India to Slovenia. I think this is going to be an extremely crucial issue on which the people of India, the government of India, and policymakers will judge the relationship in the coming days. We understand there are a large number of reservations within European Union on this matter, but considering the fact that the United States, which traditionally takes a very conservative view on TRIPS matters, on intellectual property matters, has taken a position very different from what its orthodox or conventional positions are. We hope European Union will also be able to make the same shift. We hope through discussions in the WTO as well as in other multilateral fora, we can move towards a speedy TRIPS waiver. Once again, keeping in mind the fact that even if the waiver were to come now, it is probably going to be a year and more for that waiver to have effect, and actual vaccine facilities, manufacturing facilities to establish themselves across the world and provide the world, especially the poor countries of the world, the poor people of the world, with all the vaccines that they need. The other major outcome of the summit was the free trade agreement, the agreement to start discussions on the free trade agreement, on the investment agreement, on geographical indicators. Here again, these are all highly complex technical issues which are going to need extensive discussions and negotiations. We did have negotiations of the FTA in the past, which did not move much. We are now, what has happened is that as a result of high-level pressure, we have been able to restart the discussions, but this is only the resumption, a decision to resume discussions. The negotiations are going to be long, they're going to be protracted, they're going to be difficult. It would require continued shepherding, continued guidance, continued close supervision by the high-level leadership of EU and India to make sure that steady progress is made and speedy conclusions are achieved. Thirdly, I would like to comment on the subject of connectivity. Here again, it is easy to sign agreements. It is easy to come to agreement on principles. But however, to find the resources necessary for all these connectivity projects is not going to be easy. They have to come predominantly from the private sector, though some amount of public funding could come in. In a way, the elephant in the comparison was already made to EU's agreement with Japan. The elephant in the room is China and its Belt and Road Initiative. We are all aware of that. So would EU and India, under the current circumstances, or when would EU and India be able to truly pump in enough resources to make this connectivity projects a big success is a question which only time will be able to answer. But at any rate, I do not minimize the importance of it. I think these are extremely important projects in which full attention should be given and every effort made to mobilize resources from all parts so that we can make these connectivity projects a huge success. With these words, I conclude, and I'd be happy to take any questions which may arise later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your remarks, which indeed point out that the way ahead is challenging, but that's the good part of it, if you want, because challenges come only when you have something concrete to implement. We already covered a lot of ground, but there are nevertheless a lot of questions that have been put forward. So I would now like to ask Ambassador Pereira Marques as well as Ambassador Kumar to to give some more details on the issue of people-to-people connectivity. If you can please elaborate on how, in concrete terms, people mobility will be stimulated, including through education, but also talent attraction and the prospects for EU-India CAM agreement. Ambassador Pereira Marques, over to you, please. Thank you.
Yes. Are you listening? Yes, of course, people-to-people connectivities makes part of this, is one of the factors of the document approved at the summit. It's important both to Europe and India. I think it's a common need for both sides. Also, they are being also at the bilateral level. We are also working on it. As you know, some member states already concluded the mobility agreements with India. Some of others are in the brink of doing it. Portugal is working very actively on that front. We have a very open mindset. We believe, and it's a reality, we need Indian people in Portugal at all levels, be it academics, be it students, be it workers. And so I think there is this common sense between both blocs, EU and India, and also at the bilateral level, and we are working on it. But we are aware how beneficial it is for both parts to have more exchange of people and free movement of talents and people between both blocs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ambassador Kumar?
Yeah, I would like to just add to what Ambassador Carlos has just mentioned, that true that most importantly, we have to, when we speak of connectivity, people-to-people connectivity is very important, especially in terms of mobility of the professionals and the students, etc. And like Ambassador Carlos just mentioned, that the efforts at bilateral levels with several member states are already underway. India has already signed an agreement on mobility and migration with France, and it is negotiating the same agreement with several other member states. We hope that these bilateral efforts come to fruition. We understand fully well that various member states have their own understanding and priorities when it comes to permit more open movement of the professionals and students between India and their countries. But certainly this agreement, which also ensures putting a regulatory framework in place to check the illegal immigrants, which is usually a matter of concern for most of the member states, will be studied, and we entered into these agreements within the, of course, broader agreement that has been reached between India and EU when it comes to connectivity partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would now like to ask Ambassador Chen Chen to elaborate a little bit on the position of the EU in the Indo-Pacific. We've been asked if the presence in the Indian Ocean, especially vis-a-vis China, of course, is so what is going to be the positioning of the EU? Is it going to be preferring an ASEAN centrality or a Quad centrality in the Indo-Pacific? If the presence of the EU is going to be similar to the one of Chinese over maritime trade and investment corridor, or just a bilateral EU investment with India? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that what's the most important here from my, let's say, personal view is that we are not discussing about who is doing what and or prevents something, but I think the main orientation of the European Union is the free navigation for all. So trade is strengthening, and we should not allow those who are using the free navigation for other purposes, of course. Safe trade routes also demand arrangement in this regard, including the supervising the area, because it's not that we are preventing some countries or somebody not to be in the area, but also there is a lot of pirates and other threats. So free navigation in Indo-Pacific is important for everybody who is in this area. So we regard Indo-Pacific area between the West African, the West Indian Ocean and the Pacific Islands. Who will be in the middle of this? We know that some European member states are already arranging their bilateral arrangement, either with India or the area as a whole, or Quad. I think on the other hand, of course, we have ASEAN countries that are important part of the trade that goes between Asia and Europe. So they should certainly be part of this discussion. I hope that this debate will go really into securing free communication between different parts of Asia and Europe, and less about military arrangements, because of course some analysts are already making conclusions that we are facing almost a second Cold War or something. I think we should focus on positive sides about free navigation, free trade, free movement of vessels. Thank you.
Thank you. And now with Ambassador Rajamani, I would like to explore a little bit the trade issue and Brexit relations. So how and if trade negotiation will boost confidence of India to conclude trade agreements, and how the relations with the UK will impact the negotiation of FTA with the EU?
Well, I think the relations with UK will certainly stand on its own and will not necessarily be linked to the India-EU FTA. UK is a traditional partner of India. It is a strong trading and investment partner. There's a large people-to-people relationship. So that will stand on its own, and there will be a separate set of negotiations on what agreements we can arrive with the United Kingdom. But as far as the European Union is concerned, we already have a foundation. We have already had several years of negotiations. The world, of course, has changed in the last 8 years when we did not make much progress. And we will have to start from where we let on. The issues are fairly well known, but I think at least the perception within India was that there was a lack of flexibility on the European Union side, which is what prevented progress in the past. And there was a tendency to view things in a more technical or in a more bureaucratic manner rather than see the larger picture of India-EU relations and the transformation that a free trade agreement and an investment agreement can bring. So that is why in my earlier remarks, I emphasized the fact that there has to be continued supervision and hand-holding by the leadership at the highest level. India has been making this point in its discussions with various EU countries, and we hope that it will not just be a bottom-up process, but also a top-down process where everybody gets involved and we see what is the best progress we can make in the shortest possible time.
Thank you. I feel that we have really covered a lot of ground today. So all the things that have been said I would now like to ask really a one-sentence takeaway from our speakers to conclude. So what is the one thing you would like to leave out our audience with? And I would like to start with Ambassador Kumar first.
In my view, I think that what Ambassador Rajamani also mentioned, that while the outcome of Porto Summit has been outstanding and we should celebrate it, but there's a long way to go, and it is going to be a challenging path. But of course, both of us, both India and EU, will move ahead with all patience, understanding, and will continue the impetus at all levels, which our political leaderships together have put in with full energy during the Porto Summit. I think we will take ahead at all levels of our negotiations to give the outcomes of Porto Summit a full and more beneficial shape, which is good for both Europe, us, and for the global good. Thank you.
Thank you. Ambassador Chenchen?
Thank you very much. Well, I think that even though we may face difficulties and problems in the future in our relations, especially during the trade negotiations, we should never forget who are our friends, and India is our friend. So this is something we should always keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Ambassador Pereira Marques?
Sorry. I will pick up the same idea, and we have to be aware that the Porto Summit, Porto meeting was not a hand in itself. It was just the start of a very challenging way. And I have also, it's very important to keep in mind that something very important, that now we have a different set of mind. We have a different openness. We have a very strong political will, and we have a very special momentum. And so having in mind, as my Slovenian colleague said, that both EU and India, and as also Minister Goyal referred at the end of the business roundtable in the meeting, that we are brothers, we are friends, we are allies. So there's a way to move forward, but we'll do it as a joint effort, and having in mind that we have beneficial results for both of us, EU and India. Thank you.
Thanks. Ambassador Rajamani. Sorry, you're muted.
Let's get the FTA discussion started as quickly as possible, and let's get the TRIPS waiver done as soon as possible. I think these are the two most immediate important things ahead of us.
Thank you. Thank you. I would really like to thank all the speakers for such an enriching discussion. And I will now give the floor to Ms. Kanchi Batra, the business editor of the Diplomatists, for the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Mr. Fania. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you who genuinely and generously helped us to make this session come together to become a success. Thanks to each and every one of you for being here with us today. Special mention to all the enthusiastic participants who took the time to participate in this discussion. We hope that you found this discussion informative and worthwhile. We believe that our diverse and dynamic group of speakers and panelists provided in-depth insight on the theme. I wish you all the best and hope that you continue to be engaged with the Diplomatists. Stay tuned for the next session, which will start at 3:30 Indian Standard Time. Have a good day. Thank you all.